Hey everybody, it's Derlene Hirtz here. More importantly, I have my friend Latasha Wren with me today, and you get to meet her. One of the things that I love most in this world about networking is the extraordinary people that I get to meet. And I believe that this change in the world is going to happen at this level. It's not going to happen in politics. It's not going to happen, I don't know, in some organized something. It's going to happen with good old-fashioned conversation and women surrounding each other by good, strong, powerful women. And that's what I found in Latasha when I met her. You know, out in the networking world, if you meet somebody and you connect with them, the really cool thing is that you set aside some extra time to get to know them and share your business with them and encourage them. And that is what happened when Latasha and I think we were together for about an hour and a half. So welcome. And let me just tell the audience just a little bit about you, because we're going to really let you reveal you in just a moment. Latasha is a successful high six-figure nurse entrepreneur with two businesses, one of them being a private duty home care, which I learned so much about this process with her. We're going to share that. She's been a business owner since 2014, and the home care business was started in 2019. She's the CEO of Lifestyle Caregiving of Missouri. And without further ado, Latasha, how else would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I think that was a great introduction. I also, with my other business, review medical records for attorneys, and that's what I've been doing the longest. I started doing that in 2014 and did that full time. And I work for plaintiff and defense attorneys, and I work with that business with nurses only, and which is a lot different from my home care business.
That is awesome. What is that proper title for the attorney part of it?
Legal nurse consulting.
Legal nurse consulting. Okay. And what's the name of that business? Is that what it is?
No, the business is called Wren Wellness and Legal Nurse Consulting, and it is we're testifying experts, and so you have to usually work in the emergency room still, and if there is, so that you can testify to the things that you're reviewing the records on.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. How did you get into that?
Well, being a nurse of 25 years, I realized I didn't want to do bedside for the rest of my life. And so I said, what else can I do with this? Being a nurse.
I love that. And so 2014, so you were ahead of the curve in terms of preparing for your future with the overworked nursing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I wanted to leave while I was still happy because I love nursing. And so so my
I
thought process was do it while you're young before you're old and you're hating it. So yeah.
Right. That's really exactly why I switched out of education as well. I wanted to go out while I loved the
Yeah.
kids, and they loved me.
Right.
Right. So tell me, you've been in business really since 2014, 2019 for the other business. So go in depth about the lifestyle business.
So, Lifestyle Caregiving is an in-home private duty care company. We actually provide care to seniors and people with disabilities, and pretty much anybody who needs care. Sometimes we have clients that are younger. We've only had two, but they still were needing help in the home. And so, with that business, we do everything from hands-on personal care all the way down to just grocery shopping and housekeeping.
That's so cool. Now, what was the distinction when we talked home care and home health care?
So, home care is a non medical home care company. And so that means that you can have just regular caregivers, all the way up to CNAs, medical assistants, LPNs, and RNs on staff. But then when you have the in home care company, then usually those people are just nursing or skilled nursing. So you may have physical therapy involved, You
Oh,
may have occupational therapy involved, and then also nursing with a little bit of caregiving. So it's completely opposite than the non-medical home care.
so when somebody wants the home health care, do you refer that out?
Yes, I have different people that I refer clients to that need home care, the
Okay,
home health care.
that's awesome.
Yes.
Remind me later, I have a referral for you.
Sure.
I want to make sure I share somebody with you. So we talked about offline, we were talking about like, how is it that you became an entrepreneur compared to a somebody who actually worked for someone to transitioning into being your own boss?
Yes, and I think that that's two actually different things. I always say this now that I am an entrepreneur. When I first left the hospital in 2014, I was my own boss. It was just me. And so when you are just your own boss, it's like you still just have a job. You just work for yourself. And so I realized at that point that I didn't want to just be my own boss. I still wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be the owner of multiple, not only the owner of the company, but also be the business person of a supervisor and have my own employees and me not work that. And so probably about 5 years into legal nurse consulting, I ended up subcontracting with some people to kind of see how it felt to work with others because I was the only one doing the legal nurse consulting and it was just me. And then I ended up getting 20 nurses to come on board with me. And so I've been doing this now since 2014 and I love it. And so I was actually missing caregiving, and that's how the home care business started.
Oh my gosh, that just like makes my heart explode. That is so cool, like Latasha.
Yeah.
So what challenges did you face early on in starting your businesses?
Lots of lots of challenges like everyone else. Again, with the legal nurse consulting, it was just me. And so I've always been a go-getter. I've always been a very upstanding citizen as far as being an employee. And I was always dependable and reliable. And so when I started being the boss, I got to see the different personalities that people have to constantly um, deal with every day. And so managing nurses were, of course, a lot easier because they were all professionals. You know, they knew what to do. I didn't have to tell them how to be a nurse. So it was a lot easier. But it was very challenging to switch that mentality to people that were not as knowledgeable as I was. And so I had to learn one, how to be patient. Uh, and really have that mindset that I'm here to help and that I'm not above anybody, that we're still all peers. But at the same time, we have to get the job done. And so it still is very challenging to hire the perfect person for the families. And so we really strive our best to be a matchmaker. You know, we want to have caregivers or CNAs that go to a family and the families love them and they think of them as family, an extended family member that's always there that they feel comfortable with having in their homes. And so that's a very very challenging situation when you're interviewing 20 people a week.
Right. What would you say are the top 3 characteristics that you look for when you're hiring for the home care?
So main thing, definitely I need professional people, people that are usually more mature, because those are going to be people that are working with our seniors. They know how to hold a conversation. They like the knowledge that they're going to get from the elderly individuals, and that they, of course, can work with the elderly. So they, they have to have a good background, pass a background, they have to have experience, and very dependable because this is life saving. If we don't show up, our clients are left with no one sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I know whenever we had coffee into lunch that day, um, we talked about that you also advocate right? Like you go into the hospital and advocate for your clients.
Yes, that's the case management part of my company. And so I have a relationship with some of the hospitals in town, and they will call me if they have a difficult discharge to decide on what they should do. You know, is it safe for them to discharge? Is this someone that possibly I can take home and get involved with family to see if they need to stay home, or can they go to a nursing home or an assisted living facility? And so we try to manage the case in the process to make sure that it's a safe discharge, that we're not sending people home for them to turn around and come right back to the hospital.
And you'll even drive them home, right?
I will drive them home, or my driver will drive them home once I do my assessment, and we'll start care right then and there. So if it's somebody that can do the private pay in-home care, then we'll do that. But if it's, like I said, someone that we're just not really sure what they want to do, they don't really need care, they can't really afford the care, so we'll talk to family and see what we can do to try to help them out as much as possible.
That is amazing. I'm just thinking of an uncle. Well, actually, they're a married couple. And due to his health concerns, they had to be moved out into an assisted living place.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so not happy. And she says she's never going home.
Oh.
And so do you have those conversations with people?
All the time. Yes, all the time. That is the biggest thing. When there's a couple involved, we do have couples, and when there's a couple, we have to make sure they're on the same page. And so a lot of times that's the number one. If there's somebody who needs hands-on care versus somebody who doesn't, sometimes there's an age difference, and so the one spouse may be 80s and the other spouse may be 60s. So there, it's kind of like,
Oh, wow.
I'm still trying to live, and this person doesn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we just sit down and try to get on the same page, and also educating them on what it is that they're asking for, because sometimes people just think, oh, I just want to go to an assisted living facility because I won't have to mow the lawn anymore. And so they have their own ideas of what's going to happen there, and so we have to remind them that there's a lot more involved. You're not going to have any control. People can't just show up at any time. And so when you really help them to see what the difference from them being at home to an assisted living to a nursing home, then sometimes they sit back and they think about it, and they're like, oh, maybe I should stay at home. So we help them to try to come to the best conclusion for the whole family, including the kids.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's just throw them in the mix, right? Yeah, no kidding. In this case, there are two brothers and they were both on the same page. So that was so helpful.
Yes, that's very good, because that is not always the case.
No, not at all. And I think, it's so hard, and this is totally my projection, right? Fortunately, my parents they're 83 and 85 and still in pretty good health, and yes, the idea that that loss of independence, we project that that's right around the corner, right? They
usually say 85 and older is when you start needing assistance in the home.
Okay. Well, my dad is still out working it in 100-degree weather down in Austin, Texas. He is one of those crazy people.
I had one person that was still doing roofing at that age.
Was he married?
He was.
And he put up with his wife complaining about that?
Yes. Until he fell and broke his back.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, my mom did make my dad swear no ladders, no roofs,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
So if I were to ask you what success is to you, what would you consider success? Because the way that I see you, you are an extremely successful businesswoman. You are a successful human, which is probably the most important thing to me. Just what is success to you?
So I would probably say that success to me is probably different from most people, because most people think success means education or schooling or things like that. And to me, success is the whole person. Are you a happy person? Are you a spiritual person? Are you spending time with your family? You're successful, even if it's not, you have less, but you're happy. And there's a lot of people in the world that they strive for success and they're striving for money or things. And to me, that's not what success is. Success comes from the heart to me. It's if you're happy.
Yep. And I think that there's a lot of, well, I know there's a lot of science behind it, what you said. I actually read an article that capped it out at $75,000. Anything over $75,000 is play money. Now, I don't know how old that report was because I would surmise that it's a little bit more money than that.
Mm-hmm.
And people who don't invest in themselves and they seek that external happiness, the things, if you will,
Yeah.
that doesn't, that feeds the exterior happiness, not the interior happiness, is really what we're all after, right?
Yes.
And not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the harmony of both of them, right?
Yeah.
And so much of our society, they, you know, when you first ask what is success, when I ask people that, so many of the times it goes right to money, because that's what our society overall judges us on, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so to have that internal success, that internal happiness, that's why I know you're a successful businesswoman,
Oh.
because you get that part right, and all the rest is gravy, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the extras.
Yep, 100%.
Yes.
Well, you know that I love talking about mindset and all the things.
Yes.
So share with me just kind of your journey around shifting your mindset. Maybe even like one of the things that we talked about that we have in common. And oh, if my mom listens to this, I've never said this to her out loud, but we'll see. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, as was your mom.
Yes.
And so for me, okay, my perception of that was a lack of independence. Like, she had to ask my father for something one time, and I thought, not going to happen.
Yes.
Maybe my husband's going to hear this too, and he's going to go, oh, so that's where that's from. But you know, just knowing. So I did what's called reverse modeling my mom.
Yes.
So share your experience with that.
It's kind of the same, you know, in alignment with that. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I wanted to be different. I didn't want that. I didn't want to have to ask for things. I wanted to be my own person. And I also saw her wanting to do things for the kids and couldn't. And so I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have to deal with that. You know, I wanted to have my own money, even if it wasn't a lot. And so it definitely, I had the same mindset that I needed to make my own money. I needed to be able to take care of myself, and I needed to make sure that I was being reasonable with the situation that I had. And so growing up, I always knew that, you know, your mom takes care of the house. And so immediately I thought, well, if that's what I'm supposed to do is take care of the house, how am I going to take care of the house and work? You know, it was like, so I had to start at a very young age with that thought process of knowing what I was looking for and what I wanted to do and how was I going to challenge or make it through the challenge of home and being outside the home.
And so how does that work with your home life?
So with my home, especially being a business owner, I took it to a whole nother level, right? So
yes.
so it's I not only work outside the home, I own multiple businesses, and so I have to have a lot of support. And so my husband is extremely supportive in our situation, and so with that, I have to speak up and say what I need, and let him know that there's extras that I need. And I just ask for help. You know, I am not afraid of asking for help. I don't think it makes you a less of a woman or less of a business person. It helps me to stay clear, and that whole clarity is my life. I have to have clarity. And if it's too much going on, I can't. And so I eliminate by delegating. That's what I do best. think I do that
There
at
you
the door.
go.
I can delegate.
Again, another reason why you're so successful.
I don't put anything on me that I can't handle. And I'm like, okay, that's too much. Let somebody else do that.
I love that. I felt like whenever we spend our time together, that we are cut from the same cloth in so many ways, you know,
Yeah.
with our great desire to continue to contribute to the world, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
having these super supportive husbands and the reverse modeling of our moms, you know, it is my poor husband, he'd never eat if he thought I was going to cook for him.
Yeah, my husband is very traditional, but he knew early on, that that's not me, that I want to continue to work, that I want to have a shared household responsibility. And so we went into the marriage with that deep conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. I surprised my husband after we got married. Oh, by the
Oh,
way,
by the way.
he just happened to be getting on board with it.
Well, that's what I did with the businesses. I got married in 2014. so,
Oh,
so
okay.
I
Oh,
said,
you just did it all.
yeah, I just did it all. I said, I'm going to start my own business. And he looked at me and he said, oh, you are? And I said, yes.
And how old is your youngest child?
He's 5.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
starting businesses, having a child. I mean, really, you are a Wonder Woman. You are.
Oh, thank you. Can't
And
do it without support, though. You
yep,
have to have support.
yep. How is
Yeah.
it that you maintain? Because as entrepreneurs, we all know, right? We have these up days and we have these down days, and we have these up days and we have these down days. And so, how is it that you maintain a positive mindset?
I was just gonna say, when you was asking the question, I was thinking mindset. You have to have that positive mindset, and so I do that spiritually. I constantly am trying to take others into consideration, being reasonable, and but I think the biggest part is spirituality. Making sure that I feed myself spiritually, and I do that every morning at 5. And so I have to do that first, because if you don't do it first, then immediately you start being taken from everybody else. And so you're just giving, and you haven't given yourself. And so I keep that spiritual routine with meditation in the mornings, and making sure that I feed myself first.
So I love that. I think that I'm so thankful that you shared that, because I used to be a jump out of the bed, go to the gym girl.
Yeah.
And I missed that part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I guess it was maybe COVID that I had the mornings then, right? More morning than I really wanted, but whatever, we'll take what we can get.
Yeah.
And I started doing exactly what you just said. I started really using some reflection time and some meditation time and some prayer time and discovery time, whatever. It's all around who I am as a spiritual woman. And I found that I really loved that. That was really missing. And then it was like, okay, so then where's the gym time? Because I really kept putting that on the back burner, because in a lot of ways that took the most effort.
Yeah, it does.
And I just recently went back to, I have a crazy history of exercise, but I just recently went back to CrossFit training with a personal trainer.
Oh, wow.
Not the crazy classes, only crazy with her.
Yes.
And I already feel this is my 3rd weekend and I'm so energetic, and I am, what we were just talking about, that inner happiness. I'm there again.
Yes.
And it just is so cool. And I believe, and I know actually, as you do, that it all starts with how we pre-frame our day with giving our time between ourselves and our God, or our higher power, or source, whatever people say. That really sets us up for a great day.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
So the name of the podcast is Change We Must. So with that in mind, what are some of those changes that you've made in your life, in your business, that you just go, wow, that was me 10 years ago, or even yesterday, right? Share some of that.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. Like you said, just taking that time for myself, and having the right mindset, I think is the biggest change that I've had. And then of course, being patient. Sometimes we're just bombarded with so much stuff that we're just going, going, going. But it's like we have to slow down. And so that's what I've learned over the years is to just slow down, and think. And that's where all of that meditation in the morning comes from, thinking about my day, thinking about my clients, thinking about my caregivers, just constantly slowing down and trying to plan. That's really important with any business. I think in order for you to continue to grow, you're going to come through a lot of challenges, and so in order, you have to be able to maneuver. And I tell people all the time, and I tell myself this every day, that that's what I do best is change. I'm constantly being resourceful and making sure that I'm being flexible. And so I can't be that way if I am just stuck and want it to always be about me. And so you have to be resourceful and flexible. And when challenges come, you have to think and have your mind know that I can fix this. I can make this change. I can work this out. And so it's all about the mindset. If you don't have a positive mindset that you're going to be able to make the change or that you can make the change, you'll be stuck. And so I think that that's what's most important is having the right mindset and being positive, thinking, and also rubbing off on the people that you're around, having the same positive mindset and not being around the negativity.
So I like swear we have mental telepathy going on because I was sitting here thinking about, first of all, the word flexibility. In my training, we always talk about the most flexible person controls the situation, which is so true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that the way that I share it is that we are the sum of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. So
Mm-hmm.
we look to that, right? So who are those 5 people? And that is one of the reasons why I absolutely love networking, because I got to find my 5.
Right, yeah.
And
Always.
yeah. And I even go a step further in saying, like, one's got to be a cheerleader, one's got to be a mentor. I always believe we should have a coach.
Yes.
Some's got to be that friend, that kind of like the way I say it is, that sits in the jail cell while your mentor's bailing yourself out and your coach is just shaking their head like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But to some of the 5 people, right? And that's one of the really cool things about doing this podcast for me is that I get to choose who it is that I surround myself with, right?
Yes.
So when I meet extraordinary people like you, I just it just gives me the energy, right?
Yeah.
So that we can then go out and create the change that we know that we are capable of, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
share with me and our friends that are listening, somebody that you really admire or who inspires you.
I wouldn't say I have anybody in particular. Again, it's who I surround myself with. So I am constantly surrounded by business or like-minded people. And so I'm always sitting in a room listening, trying to see how can I learn from this person? What is it that I can learn from them? So I admire anybody who is going to do the hard part. They're going to do the hard thing. They're not going to shy away. They're going to, have podcasts and talk about things that people are probably not going to like, or start a business that nobody think that they would ever be able to start. They're going to be somebody that's just going to be very driven. And so I admire any individual that one is a business owner, especially the ones that start from what they so-called say the bottom, don't have much, and then they end up being successful. And so I really admire people like that, that want to be more. They, even if they're working for somebody else, they still are always striving to be more and to be to better themselves. They're not complacent. And so that's, you know, I don't have an individual, but I always look at that person and say, oh, I'm proud of them. You know, I love people like that.
Mhm. You know, I was it's probably been a couple months now. I was an author in a book called Resilience through the Grit Deconstructing Grit program here in St. Louis with Jennifer
Oh.
Bordeaux. And we were all meeting and just sharing our stories and stuff. And in that moment, I don't know what inspired me to stand up and say this, but you know, I started thinking about, you know, that word, how I got so inspired by humanity. And, you know, when I was a kid, my mom, we didn't have a lot. The one thing that we did have was a Reader's Digest that sat on our coffee table every single day. And I would pick up that Reader's Digest and I would read those stories and I would become so inspired by the stories of the people, right? That's probably why I enjoy writing today and reading even to this day about other people and their journey and their stories and stuff, because that does inspire me as well.
Yeah. Nice.
So, what questions should I asked you that I didn't? What would anything else that you would like to share?
I know as far as like my home care, a lot of people always wonder why people need home care, and I used to wear a button when I first started, and it says, "Ask me the number one reason why people put their family members in a nursing home."
Oh,
And so the answer is incontinence. And so a lot of people are not for sure or familiar with it. They don't know how to take it, and they don't want to deal with it. And so that's like always the number one question for that company is we need people have the most needs for someone who is incontinent, which means they have no control over their bowel or bladder.
okay. Wow. See, you educated me.
Yeah, and so that's usually the most challenging one for families, especially if there's like a son and a mother involved, you know. So that's
Very
one of the biggest
uncomfortable.
questions that I get. Yeah, that's one of the biggest questions that I get. So I wanted to answer that question.
That's awesome. You know, I think between what you do, home care, home health care, Uber, Instacart, those things are all going to provide baby boomers the opportunity to stay in their home
To
longer.
stay in their homes, yes,
Mhm.
yes, yep,
Yeah, that's always the dream.
yes. It really is for most people. We have an assisted living service in the home, and that's exactly what it is. Whatever you think you can get at an assisted living facility, we can do in the home. And
That's
so
awesome.
a lot of people want that now.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your time with me.
No
And
problem.
I just really look forward to sharing who you are and what your business is and all the incredible paths of journey that you've taken to make such a difference in our world. And
Oh, thank you.
from my entire heart, I truly, truly thank you.
It's
Because
been my pleasure.
yeah, and I thank you for our budding friendship
Oh, thank you.
and our ability to stay connected.
Yes, yes.
So any parting words to our audience?
Just thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to sit here and talk a little bit about my businesses. And I think this is a great podcast. I think it's definitely needed. We all have to have and work on our minds. We have to have the positive attitudes. And if we don't, we have the latter, which we're negative. so I think mind building is phenomenal, and that's what we definitely should be doing.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, everyone. I will see you next time on the podcast Change We Must. I look forward to getting this podcast, all the T's crossed and I's dotted, so that we can share it out. And I hope you really enjoyed meeting Latasha Wren and with Lifestyle Caregivers. And what's the other one with the attorney?
Wren Wellness and Legal Nursing.
Wren Wellness and Legal Nursing. So go out and be extraordinary people so the world can be extraordinary with your energy. Take care, everyone.